So I had this crazy idea to head back to the city I grew up in and sit down with some of my favorite creatives and friends. Individuals who have traveled a unique journey to get where they are today. Their wisdom often goes unnoticed because in some capacity, they don't even fit the cultural norms of success. But to me, they're definitely hidden treasures. So I decided to create a space where we can explore the narratives of these individuals through candid conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Robin Keith, and welcome to Hidden Gems.
All right, people, welcome back to another episode of Hidden Gems. As you know, I am your host, Robin Keith, and I am so glad to be with you today. I am bringing another friend to the conversation, and that man's name is Kyle Godwin. I need you to know this man ain't nobody to play with, ladies and gentlemen. This dude has been all over, from getting Emmys to working downtown in New York at MSG, like working with ESPN, to being consistent with churches. Like, you need to understand that this person I'm sitting talking with has a story, and I believe you can relate to it. I believe that there's an opportunity in this conversation to kind of see where you can grow from, and then also work ethic. He's one of the hardest working people I know. And I know I've said that about a couple of my friends, but that's why I keep a good community. But legitimately, this man takes a train from Philadelphia to New York to do work consistently. Sometimes has to stay over in New York to do work consistently. So again, put your hands together, or go ahead and type some things in the chat and respond to the fact that my brother, light-skinned himself, Kyle Godwin, is in the building.
Yo, I appreciate you, man. Yo, light skin himself.
Light skin himself. Like, some of us are light skinned,
yeah.
But you light skinned.
Yeah, bro. I'm on a lighter spectrum, bro. I'm at the
Yo, bro, how has it been? I feel like it's been ages since we've actually got to sit down and like.
Bro, I had to make this happen because I only gonna see you on Instagram if I don't. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, bro.
Yo, you're doing amazing, bro. I'm super proud. I'm just happy to see it, man.
Yo, man, I appreciate you, my dude. Like, it was funny. Like, you're one of the people who, regardless of what I do, whenever I do something well, you're one of the first people and one of the most detailed people that say, yo, you killed that. Like, you know, that looks good. Like, yo, stop putting pressure on yourself. Like, this was done well. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you, Kyle. And it's like, people don't know, like, you know, Kyle came onto my team at Epiphany, my home church that I grew up in Philadelphia, as just a media guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't know all the stuff that Kyle did, but we started building a relationship. And I found out Kyle had done some stuff with ESPN and news stuff like that. And so when the pandemic hit, I was like, Kyle, what do you think about framing here? He's like, I don't like it. And Kyle would just give feedback. And I always created space for people on my team to kind of like grow. And so as we begin to talk about your vision and your ideas and spend time with your family, shout out to your wife, because she's dope.
She said hi, by the way.
Oh, I love her, man. She's when I actually need a real publicist, I'm gonna tell her, hey, you got to help me figure out who to get.
No, for sure.
Yeah, man. But like, Kyle joins the team, and immediately our skill set steps up. Like, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot of cats on the team, but I think in general, like, how you thought about, because of your history in TV production and things like that, just kind of gave us a better presentation that I didn't even know that existed. And I would look down on myself because I was like, man, I'm just a creative director and all these people do this hard stuff. And he was like, no, we need you. We need your vision. And so I appreciate you for that, brother. So for the people that are watching this and getting to know you for the first time, give us a little bit of origin story. Tell people where you from, you know, how long you've been growing your beard, all that.
Yeah. The beard has only been a couple of years. So, you know, since my oldest daughter, but born and raised in Philly. Definitely somebody who has been a high imagination person like my entire life. Been in entertainment as a kid, always been pushed outside, you know, to be uncomfortable and to thrive in uncomfortability. So that went from, you know, doing dance and arts and theater and stuff as a kid, you know, and kind of being comfortable where people normally don't go and deal in those, you know, areas. So that kind of made me think differently. And so by thinking differently, and I wasn't never scared to ask questions or, you know, kind of ask the people who were doing stuff why they were doing it. And if I needed to challenge them, you know, from a young age, I was challenging just in thought and theory. So that kind of, you know, molded me into kind of how I became who I am.
Help me understand your beginning stages of your creativity outside of like the family situation. So you got your dance skills, like, you know what I'm saying? Were you Sammy Davis dancing, or were you
Bro,
like Chris Brown
I,
breaking? Like, I need to know.
listen, no, Chris Brown is gifted, bro. So there ain't many people on this earth that's moving like Chris Brown move. Okay, so I wasn't that, but
Mhm.
it started out with just like kids they be jumping on the bed doing stuff. So I used to do flips, growing up. So
Yo, what part you grew up in Germantown?
yeah,
Because when we were in North Philly, like cats, you would have like the old mattresses
for
outside
sure,
and be
for sure.
flipping on.
Flipping off, you jump off sometimes you jump off the little porch or whatever. You know what I mean? By the way, mattresses usually have springs poking out, so I don't know how we survived, but thank God,
Praise God.
You know what I mean? For real, praise God for
Right.
like getting us through them.
Right.
But like it started with like that, just flipping, around the way, flipping, and then my people was like, "Yo, we're gonna put you in a flip school at the time."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Okay," and I went there just for that. And because it was not many males doing it,
Right.
they were like, well, "How about you try hip hop?" I'm like, "All right, try hip hop." And then from there, they were like, "We'll give you a dance scholarship. You can take any class you want." And I suggest you take. It was Teddy Pendergrass's late Teddy Pendergrass's wife, Karen Pendergrass, was like, "Yo, I want you to be in my ballet class. It's gonna help you. It's gonna help you. It's gonna be better. You're gonna be better at sports and everything." Wow. I'm like, nah, I'm
No
not doing no
tutu for
ballet.
me.
Yeah, but I'm not doing no ballet. Come on.
No tutu for me.
My dad was like, "Yo, I think you should do it."
Wow.
And I was like, well, okay, it's a little different when your dad said it, because if my mom said it, I'd be like, yeah, you want me to do that. But my dad, it felt like approval, you know what I mean? And so I did it, and that was the start of uncomfortability.
Wow.
Right? But like, I got so much better at my footwork than my friends. So when we came to sports, I could, no pun intended, I could tap dance all around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that kind of led me to, I did all stuff, tap dance, all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it led me to being in a movie like Beloved with Oprah Winfrey.
Wow.
Where I was an extra as a dancer, me and my sister, at that scene where they're like dancing around a rock or something like that. It got me into like the Harlem Nutcracker, bro. I was like the main character in the Harlem Nutcracker as a kid scene. Just like random stuff, you know what I mean?
That's lit.
It's like so that kind of was like, okay, this entertainment, I like entertaining. You know what I mean? Like there's something about getting a reaction, right? Like seeing that reaction, and that's translated into now. Like when I market, it's really I don't market for me necessarily. I market to see how you react to what I created, right? I don't need you to tell me it's good or not. I can tell by your reaction. So like that's what started that itch to be like, nah, I got to do something cool, even if it's the smallest stuff. Like when we was in church, we like, nah, bro, yo, how can we do this? I think we were doing something for, I think it was Easter or something like that, the spoken word. And we're like, yo, how do we come up with something dope? How do we, that's just like that challenge is what I loved. And then when we would sit in service and we would hear like the congregation respond or laugh, you're like, just that little bit of dopamine, right? Like that's like kind of the same on social media. Like this is pre-social media type of tap.
And it's funny because even when you talk about those content pieces, right? So this is a couple years before the pandemic.
Yeah.
A couple years before the pandemic, we started on that stuff. I was looking over some of that content last week. And I was like, yo, we are giving crowd responses, right? Like some of our videos and stuff like that. We were giving full on like 1 minute stories with crowd responses and speeding stuff, ramping stuff down, like to give a sense of FOMO because we were trying to just create a space before. Now that's just the norm.
Correct.
And so it's crazy. I think it's funny when you started talking about the entertainment piece because I was like, where did my heart of entertainment kind of come from? And I started thinking about my own situation. My grandmother was a gospel singer, and she traveled the world singing gospel music. And a lot of people wanted her to do jazz and other genres. And she wouldn't. She would go into clubs and lounges overseas and say, I'm only singing the gospel music. People would put out cigars and cigarettes and stop drinking when she would come into the space just based on her talent. And so I knew that was there, but then my mom and them started putting, like, everybody thought I had a little bit of personality. My mother would say I was grown because I'd be in adult conversations. She said I was like 5 years old trying to give adults advice. Like, it was crazy.
They ain't stopped. You still.
I'm still giving adults advice. Right. And so, but in it, personality-wise, I ended up doing commercials. So I did like one of the Burger King commercials, right? And so one of the kids in the Burger King commercial in the back of the car. So I'm like, from what I understood, I killed it, right? But my mother, I was like, oh snap, that was dope. I was like, why didn't y'all keep me in it? They was like, because I was I was emotionally tired. I was like, nah, y'all fight through that. Like, fight through that. Like, she was like, no, I'll be the Burger King kid. Let me get this check.
Yeah.
She's like, we'll be up there at 6 a.m. So I'm understanding the thread. So like for you, once you get into your dancing, now showing up in these plays, showing up in these scenes and movies, how do you get to a space where you're now behind the camera and curating?
It's a little like, in back in the day when you rewind the tape, you rewind the tape so much it'd be like a little black strip or like it just glitch a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's like this little glitch, right? Where college, I wanted to go to school to be a doctor, bro. You know what I mean? I went to school because my dream was sports. Every kid in the hood want to go to the league, right? So I'm like, I gotta get to the league, but I don't know if y'all can tell on camera, but I'm not 6'5". Right. You know what I mean? So this wasn't the body to get to the league. Now the skills was there, but the body wasn't equated, right? So I'm like, all right, how can I get on to the court? And I remember seeing something about the old Sixers GM Pat Croce was like a physical therapist. And I knew, I was like, all right, if this dude was a physical therapist and became the GM to draft in AI, there's a path there, all right? Maybe I go as a doctor or PT into sports medicine and I transition to show my acumen with that way. And yeah, man, that first semester, man, them classes was the devil in them joints, but I could not get through them joints, man. And so I feel like, in a sense, man, I was like, I like talking about sports. I like entertaining. What can I do? And so I transitioned to sports journalism and broadcasting. And with that, I thought I was going to be like the next Stuart Scott. I watch ESPN all the time. And fortunately, I was blessed to get there. And when I got there to see, Stuart Scott and these, some of these folks are regular people. Everybody's regular people. Let's say that. Everybody's regular folks, right?
Right.
But then some of us have like the celebrity status, like a Stuart Scott, where anywhere he goes, you recognize him, right?
Stuart Scott, right.
And I realized that wasn't the life. You couldn't live free, right? So I wanted that same attachment, but I realized like behind the camera gave me more power. I actually could dictate what I wanted. I could create a vision versus me just being the person you told me the story or you kind of gave me the outlet to do something. I wanted to kind of do it all. So if I became on camera, cool, but it was mainly, that's the best way for me to tell stories and more stories.
So how long was you at ESPN working?
I was there 7 years.
And it was ESPN Films, right?
Yeah, yep, yeah. I started as an intern. I told him I'm not leaving. I wanna get there. And how I even got there was an unfortunate situation because a friend of mine had got murdered in my senior year. And my dad went to the funeral. I couldn't go because I was up at State College at the time, Penn State. And so he's like, yo, how's Kyle doing? He was like, he's good. He's like, what do you want to go to school for? It's like, he told him he's like, his dream job is ESPN. Yeah. He said, all right, I got somebody up there. And he connected me with the gentleman, and that's kind of how it fast forwarded. Wow. And so I went in for Sports Center, like highlights. And it wasn't a good look for me, at least at that time. The person that was representing me, it just wasn't a good match. I put it that way. And so I didn't even apply for the films. I ain't applied for 30 for 30.
Wow.
I needed a job. I came back because I had to pay rent. I was like, oh, let me go back to the crib in Philly for like a weekend. And I got a call and he was like, yo, come here and check out this documentary series. We haven't even started yet, but check it out. I'm like, all right, cool. And that interview, and this is this is my God moment where he touched down real quick, like home base, like God moment, right? So I knew at this time, like clearly this, for me to get here wasn't my own doing, right? It wasn't my skills that got me there. Right. This is my network that got me there, right? And showing up for people. And so somebody showed up for us too, my family in that capacity. So now in this role with this, 30 for 30 situation, I know when God moves because he usually shows himself quickly in certain scenarios. Yeah. And so this is one of the first times when I interviewed that I went from the room to the next in the same day. Like, yo, do this interview. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take you to the next guy. Oh, the third interview was like, yo, you got the job. I'm like, in the same day, I didn't even apply for this.
Wow.
Okay. I didn't even know what I was in for.
Yeah.
Fast forward, that's 30 for 30, an Emmy Award-winning, Peabody, Webby Award-winning series, bro. I had no idea what I was even being a part of.
Yeah.
So years later, I'm like, God, thank you. you kind of got me out of a situation where it wasn't a good match with the Sports Center highlights. I would have never been able to get what I wanted in this capacity, you know. And
that's the crazy part about walking with the Lord, right? Because like certain things that we would like I would say the thing that we thought that was going to propel us is actually the thing that actually like devastated us. Cause like I can imagine like you know what I'm saying, you weren't even you know, like the highlight thing, you said it wasn't a good fit for you. But in the minute you was like, yo, this would be a great opportunity, right? And then the opportunity gets taken away and you're like, God's not with me. But legitimately, what we see is God's favor, right? God's favor ain't fair, right?
Right.
We see grace upon grace where, you know what I'm saying, it created, like if you'd have said, if that would have worked out, you wouldn't have had an opportunity to be a part of an Emmy project.
Never. And it was interesting because there was a moment where, you know, people saw me and they were like, yo, what you still doing here? Like, how you, like, what you working on? And I would tell them, they're like, what's that? For a whole year, you know, then the project comes out and they're like, what's that? I'm like, dang, still don't know what it is. You know what I mean? To the point where now it's a household name. Like, cats turn 30, you know, they hashtag is 30 for 30.
Right.
Like,
so you were at the beginning stages of ESPN 30 for 30. That is
right there.
Nuts.
They didn't even film anything yet. They were like, yeah, we're thinking about doing these things on like Tupac and Mike Tyson relationship and Allen Iverson when he got a lot. They're like, you heard of this stuff? And I'm like, yeah. Like, forgive me, Lord, I was lying. That was a lie. I had not heard all these stories at the time. But desperation was like, Kyle, you need to pay for this apartment. And you got a roommate who also depending on you. You know what I mean? So you need to make it work. And so that's the first time I knew, like, oh, now I think I got a little more favor, you know what I mean, when it comes to this this lane right now.
No, that's dope. I think sometimes we forget about the fact that being a part of the beginning process, so much what you learn in that. Like, because you know, in the beginning of a project, everybody's all hands on, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know in the beginning that you need a personal assistant, you know what I'm saying, on the project, or you need a runner. Everybody was doing that. It was the person that was holding the camera, that person was a runner, or, you know, you're like, oh, you need an audio guy. It's like, no, I was the audio guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? The beginning stages, and then you're like, how you contribute, like how everything contributes to this big old W. So now you get out of ESPN, how do you end up transitioning out of that? And then like, like what was the next move for you after that?
From there, I was inspired by seeing, like, I have an attachment to people who do things well. Like I said, I always ask questions. I want to know why. So and it's all about the reaction too, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing people now, years later, 5 years in, they're responding to 30 for 30. You got LeBrons and these guys tweeting broke to these other Miami U. Like I'm meeting people in a way that I never thought I was going to meet people because of this product. So flying all over the country to help with these subjects. So I'm like, man, it's got to be awesome to get this reaction here. But what happens if I create it? Like, what if I created the idea? Like, how much more of a reaction would I get? And how much more rewarding would it be to say, no, I thought of this idea. I did. I.e., while we sitting here, right? It's like, I got something more to offer than, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a stab at my own, take a leap of faith. And that's really what I did. I took a step out blindly, leaving something that was stable and good for better. Yeah. And I believed in myself more than I believed in what I was working on.
Do you think that's what separates you from many? Like, do you think that's something that God has put on you? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I that's a great question, bro. Because I as I've gotten older, I've realized that that's something that God's placed in my heart, where like I just know He's placed me here to do something better. And it's not about complacency or even being braggadocious, right? And it's both sides of it. Some of us can be so braggadocious about the gifts that He's given us that it rubs people the wrong way. And then some of us have a way of humbling ourselves and using Jesus as that kind of stepping stone, like humbling ourselves to the point where you're like, nah, I'm not better than you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know God designed me to show and shine better than what everybody else is kind of just going to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like I believe in myself. And I think He's placed that in me. And that's something from early on. Just honestly, it really was inspiration from, Jesus on the cross, bro. It's kind of a crazy infatuation with like that saviorism syndrome where you just, you want to be that, but then I just always move like that. And so, to now to, transition from ESPN and be in this walk of faith of coming up with content that I feel was driven by either him and the Holy Spirit giving me ideas or clients that match in that capacity. I definitely showed out a little more than I should have. And God was like, all right, bro, you in Atlanta, you doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
I got to reel this in and you need to recognize.
So wait, so you're now in a space where, we're going to go there for a little bit. So now you're in a space where you're doing these things that you could never dream of, right? And then you're like, yo, if they're doing it, I can definitely do my own thing, right? So you start feeling yourself a little bit. Right, you start feeling yourself a little bit. I mean, you got an Emmy, you ain't gonna feel yourself a little bit. Right, so, but now you're in a space where you're trying to move and shake, but now you feel conviction of God to pull back your lifestyle because it's not, quote unquote, adding up to the principles. Like, tell me about that.
Right. Yeah, listen, man. If any of y'all have been to Atlanta, y'all know Atlanta has its own crazy conditions. All right, we're just gonna.
They give Vegas a lot of credit, but y'all gotta give Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Vegas is Vegas. You know what I mean?
Problem.
Right. So Atlanta itself, you know, the ratios are a little off. Okay, and you know, I put it that way. You know what I mean? So when I was on fire for Christ, leaving on that leap of faith, Connecticut isn't your Atlanta, okay? Right. So I'm over here like, you know, God, I got you, lock, tunnel vision, right? Get down to Atlanta. I'm like, yo, I never seen as many black people doing great, and like, this is absurd, okay? Yeah. You know what, Kyle? You also are coming down here in the midst of, like, I gotta throw myself, you're a good guy, right? Yeah. And some people recognize, hey, good thing, hold on to it. Hey, you did what at ESPN? Oh, hold on to it. Yo, man, the tails are just, you know what I mean? Like, just hanging on. And I recognize, like, yo, that's also not a good thing here. Yeah. You know what? I swear to goodness, God, here you go, touch moment, boom, tag home again. Yo, I'm on Instagram and I scroll by and my now wife, who I met her before I moved to Atlanta. That was all I met her and I was like, oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Like, but I'm moving to Atlanta, so let me not pursue, let me just chill. Yeah. Scroll on, what she got on Instagram, her shirt said, Jesus is the illest. I said, yo, I need to circle back. Yeah. I need to circle back. Came home, I came home maybe like a month later. We've been connected pretty much ever since.
That's lit, because like, not that I knew this conversation would go there, but I think there is a lot of validity to a relationship that pulls you back into a space where you're more intimate with God, Amen. Right? Like, so like for Katrina, there was some things, if it wasn't for her, there's some things that I probably would not have tried that God had been pressing upon me, but he used her as a means of grace, right? So you get the scenario where I have to go get my GED. Now, everybody that's around me, they pushing me, they challenging me or whatever. And, you know, I'm moving slow towards it, whatever. But Katrina comes into my life and I'm like talking to her and she's telling me all her desires and what she would want to see me do and all this other stuff. And she was like, I was like, well, I got prepared for the test. She's like, well, do you know what's on the test? And I'm like, nah. She's like, well, just take the test. And I'm like, what do you mean just take the test? She's like, just take the test and see what you get on the test. And at least you'll know what you have to deal with. Right. And I was like, that's so smart. That's so amazing. Man, you got and next thing you know, I took the test and I passed about 85, 90% of the test without having to study. And I was like, you know, we go now. God did, but like, I'm like, yo, Lord, sometimes you'll use, yes, a lot of times I've seen use a significant other to remind you of your purpose, or at least that's what he did with me. And it sounded like that's what he did with you. It was like, yo, he put it on a t-shirt and a young woman that was like, yo, you need to get back in line with me.
100%. And you nailed it, bro, because that is exactly what happened, right? It was, we aligned in a way where, you know, relationships, a foundation is very important for relationships. So I knew that alone, I can't necessarily trust these other people out here, right? Where I'm in Atlanta, you know, I don't know your motivation, but with you, I know that your foundation at least is that Jesus is that. You'll wear it. You'll brand it on you, right? That's important. Because when I'm with you or when you're with me, that's going to shine. And if you're proud to do that, then I would look bad not to be proud to do that either. And so, you know, that allowed us to, you know, kind of get together. Now we moved out of the ordinance of God's creation. So we had, you know, a child before we were married. So that kind of changed again. You know, that VCR tape, throw a little, you know what I mean?
Right.
little static on the tape. But, at that point, it was like, all right, well, I'll move back to Philly because that's where it matters. And so I had to figure it out. At this point, this is now, I got to provide. I got a basis of knowledge, but I also need to figure out what I'm to do now.
It's so funny, man. We can get awards and all these things and be in the height of the thing that we're passionate about. But like the way life will ground us, it'd be like those awards mean nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
And so you get back to Philly. Yep. You got this vision, but now you got a kid. How do you end up, like, what's your next move? Where do you go? Where do you work?
Well, I answer. I do have to say, just for inspiration's sake, there are people who life has ups and downs, peaks and valleys, right? That early peaking of me at ESPN gives a false sense of continued success, right? That leap of faith allowed me to think I had it. I moved in a manner, but I didn't know how to run business. I just knew how to handle business for somebody else. I didn't know how to do business. So when I got there, I was dealing with funds in a way that I never did before. So my ultimate humbling, I ended up having to work at like a Radio Shack just to put gas in the car.
Listen, this pod has legitimately mentioned Radio Shack at least 4 times already.
Really?
And someone has said RIP to Radio Shack.
RIP, bro. It's gone. It's gone. You can't get no batteries.
You can go to Radio Shack and get whatever little gadget you need.
RC capacitor, whatever.
Like, you can get whatever you needed at Radio Shack. Now, you be like, Best Buy be like it's online.
Yeah.
Shout out to Radio Shack.
For real. But that I only say that because that was one of the lowest moments, bro, when I recognized, like, yo, I was at ESPN. And I'm over here arguing with somebody over a cell phone. A cell phone. They don't even, not that they don't know who they talking to. I can't believe that they don't know that I'm in here and they don't know who they talking to. Over a cell phone, they thinking I'm this petty change individual. So that was a humbling experience. So coming back to Philly, I knew I wasn't doing that again, though. I wasn't doing the Radio Shack. You could spit on me. No offense to anybody doing retail, any of that. I just knew that wasn't for me, right? So I was like, all right, well, I got to hustle. And I was in somebody's house painting. And I'm helping my brother. I'm like, my brother can hustle. He know how to. So I'm painting. I'm going for a couple of days. And then he's like, yo, this lady, I'm helping her paint her mom crib. She comes in. He's like, oh, this is my brother. I want to introduce you. She's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Oh, my brother does like editing and like television and da-da-da. She's like, oh, really? I'm the editing supervisor down at CBS. Yo,
wait,
I'm looking for somebody, actually, a freelancer.
Wow.
Yo, how about you come out? Ends up getting the job.
So wait, you come out here trying to handle your business, take your responsibility. We always think that, the next move was the move that propelled us, right? But actually it was for you because legitimately you over here painting. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that there's no splotches in the wall and everything is looking good. Consistent, like up and down, like dip, like up and down. And the next thing you know, you actually run into a person who is running stuff down at Philly CBS. That's crazy.
Correct. So I get there. And it was freelance, so I was grateful to have a job and be able to provide. While like kind of wife was working, and so we were balancing our first kid, stay at home dad situation while doing it. Which was a blessing in disguise. And then we got married and had another kid. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, this job is cool, but it's not paying enough now. It's not consistent. I need benefits with these kids.
Definitely need benefits with these kids.
You do.
I need benefits as adults. But
these kids, man, they definitely gonna put you in a position to make you need something. So we go to Fox at this point. Same deal, right? This is another touch-base guy moment, right? Where this is all about my network. I said, I got 3 principles. You got pay to play. This is outside of the ordinance of God's. But you got to pay to play. Relationships over tasks. Yeah. And it's all about the reaction.
Say that one more time.
So my rules are you got to pay to play, meaning that like, it ain't gonna be, if it's easy and it's free, it ain't good.
Yeah.
So if you get it too easy, you should be weary, right? You gotta pay a little bit to play. Now, relationships over tasks, that's in a sense of, I value my relationships getting me further than what I've done to get me further. And I've noticed that. What you do is cool, but that accomplishment can be fleeting, right? But how you treat people is way more endearing to your longevity,
Yeah.
right? So I realized put the relationship before the task.
Yeah.
And then lastly, it was all about the reaction. And I got that through, reading the Bible, you see certain ways in which people reacted, right? It's the simple fact of, let's say you're walking in the club and somebody step on your sneaks.
Yeah.
If you're like, yo, MF, right? The response ain't gonna be, oh, with grace, I'm sorry, yo, my apologies.
Yeah.
Right? The reaction is gonna be met with the same reaction.
Yeah.
So I realized when Jesus was being tempted by the devil, he reacted in a way that was way more common. So the devil couldn't really go where he wanted.
Yeah.
Right. And that was very so that's like principles I live by. So I realized, how I was reacting in these relationships. Fox, I reach out, hey, yo, I see that there's a job, do you think, they're like, yo, Kyle, I'm gonna go down there right now and go tell him. I applied at 12 o'clock, at 4 p.m. that same day, hit me. Remember, 30 for 30, the same deal, right?
Yeah.
He moved quick. So I started recognizing, he showed me signs in threes. I don't know, maybe he told Peter, Jesus told Peter the same thing, right? I'm like, all right, something about threes, he keeps showing me. So I had 3 interviews saying, boom, 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 get the job. I said, okay, cool. Couldn't negotiate no salary, no nothing. I said, all right, well, God, I'm just grateful. I got the benefits now. I'm full-time.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Fast forward, pandemic comes, working in news, and it's starting to get really heavy, bro. Like, I remember going in the basement at one point, full vulnerability. Y'all can see me on the street, like, boy, you was crying, you did ballet. Listen, bro, I still got them hands and all the other, so don't get it twisted. But
he said, try Jesus, not me.
Bro. Listen, but at the same time, I was vulnerably like letting Jesus know, man, like, yo, this world right now is at an ultimate like cooking point. This melting pot is bubbling over, and the emotions I can't deal.
Yeah.
And like, I'm working in the news, so I'm trying to balance this fine line of being a black man in a non-familiar space with people that look like me, and yet you're trying to market and promote the ugliness of things instead of highlighting the beauty of the community and things that people are doing. I couldn't do it, but I was still willing to do it for the sake of my family.
It's funny that you bring that up about the pandemic, because I don't know if you remember this time, but you do remember it. But you're helping us out of the church record, right? We're recording multiple videos in a day, right? Yes. But you're coming gloved up, bodied up, like you had a whole like astronaut suit that you are wearing to work out. But you were coming sharing those stories, like, so we'd be working. And you'd be like, yo, man, the news is crazy. And it's like, yo, you're like, yo, this is a lot. Like, because you would get information before a lot of us.
Right.
And so you would be like, man, I just wish people, while we're all down and discouraged, I wish we would highlight some of the good things.
Right.
So it's funny, when you told me that, I go to Alan, because Alan's training photographers at the time. I say, Alan, yo, bro, it'd be dope if you take photographers on a trip through the city to train them, but then like start showing different aspects of the city so we can start storytelling through our social media.
I didn't know that. That's fire, bro.
That was inspiration based on the conversation that me and you were having about where you were in reference to the news, because at this point, social media became a space that was the only place that the church could connect.
Yeah.
So we just couldn't give them scriptures and worship music. We had to give them updates on and this is where Kevin Lockett comes into play. Yeah. Like, shout out to Kevin Lockett, the best communication guy I ever know.
Yeah.
But Kevin starts creating a platform where people can get resources for food, all these different things. And that comes from his nonprofit background history and his history in politics. And so I had Alan go out and take these photos of the city. And some of it was like empty space, and some of it, but then you started seeing flowers, you start seeing all these different things. And that's how I actually learned what photojournalism was, because Alan he's like, oh, you want photojournalism? I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
I actually said to him, I was like, give me what Chris Robinson does. Like, give me what Chris does on his Instagram. And shout out to Chris. He's back here taking photos.
Okay.
But I was like, give me photojournalism. And so while you were navigating that emotion, you also was being helpful for the body, dog.
That's awesome.
Because there were people that were looking at these photos and they were being encouraged to see, oh, I haven't seen that. Oh, that place is empty. Wow, I never knew the sky was just like, we were providing news visually through photography and video, man.
That's dope, bro. Listen, I'm glad that I helped a little bit in that capacity, but y'all ran that, bro. That's amazing. Like, yeah, bro, that time period was just a little rough, to deal with. But again, just to transition to where I am now, I kind of reached, and my homegirl at the time, posted that she had, been named vice president of MSG Networks. I was like, man, I got to call her and just congratulate her and just
Vice
let her know.
president of MSG Networks.
Yeah, she was like vice president of content for MSG Networks. So I was like, wow, I got to call her and just, relationships, you know what I mean? Just, hey, yo. And she's like, yo, actually, thank you. Appreciate it. She's like, it's actually some other openings you should apply. I'm like, I'm good where I'm at. I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm good. And, shout out to one of my homies who just kind of nudged me one time. Like, she asked me 3 times.
Mhm.
On the third time, my homie nudged me like, yo, worst case, they say no, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Boom. Interviews one day, next day, third day. Back. Got the job. I said, all right, here you go again. 3 times. I appreciate you, bro. Cook.
Cook.
You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't even trying to. And so now it brings everything full circle.
Yeah.
Right? I have conversations as recently as yesterday where I'm responsible for a team of people, and I'm a young Black executive, right? So there's not a lot of people who look like me.
Say it again, dog.
I'm a young Black executive.
Say that again.
I'm a young Black executive.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a lot of people that look like me in my space.
Yeah.
And so I'm unapologetically me.
Yeah.
I got dreads, right? I got a beard.
Yeah.
I'm a Philly guy who works in New York.
Yeah.
Who markets the New York teams, right?
Yeah.
So there's a detachment.
I was a little. I knew what your job required.
Yeah.
But when I started seeing you at the games,
I know.
I think I even seen you with like a New York Knicks balloon, something.
Yeah, I had. Yeah.
I saw that. I think I DM'd you and was like, "Yo, what's going on?"
Yeah, you did.
It's like, what's happening?
You and some other friends have
let
me know.
Yo, give us
like,
clarity. Is
correct.
this a part of your
what are
job?
you doing, bro?
Yo, blink twice if you.
Yes, it's like, yo, he's under hostage. You know what I mean? Like, nah, I tell people I root for my paycheck. You know what I mean?
Amen.
So if I got drafted by a team, I would be rocking their stuff, right? So this is essentially the same thing.
Got it. I understand.
But it is tough. I put it this way. When it gets tough, like, it's great to have 2 teams to root for now, right?
Yeah.
I was hoping last year the Sixers and the Knicks were going to meet in the Eastern Conference. That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Go to both situations.
Right.
Didn't happen. So this time, though, as a Philly person, Eagles, Philly and New York, we got this, like...
We got this big brother,
right? It's like little brother
complex.
syndrome, right? Where, like, listen, we do great music. Clearly, hip hop was birthed there, so there's like this. Oh, but y'all still. So I get that when I go up there. There's always this, like, yeah, Philly doing good and all, but like, you still here in New York, so be quiet.
Yeah.
So I love when I can get my Philly pride.
No, that's real.
You know what I mean?
So now, what do you think of some of the moments that you are? What are some of the things that you're learning now that because you've been with MSG. Now, how long?
A little over 2 years, going on 3.
Yeah, I know your pockets changed because I saw you at Costco one day. You had 2 carts.
Yo, get out of here, bro.
I saw you with 2 carts.
Listen, Costco is a problem. I mean, real. I don't. You know how to be like. We be getting on wives, be like, hey man, Amazon every day, man, Amazon every day, right? Costco is kind of my place where I'm like, yo, if I don't need to go, please don't take me, because every time I go,
bro, you came. I saw you. We ain't seen each other long. I see you come out Costco. You got 2 carts. I got 1 box. Like, you know what I'm saying? You was like, yo, I love Costco.
Costco is a problem, man.
But yeah, so put me in the place of like, what have you been learning? What you have been?
Yeah, I definitely have been learning a lot. Like, I put it that way. I have been learning a lot with in this process. So full circle. When I was at ESPN, I was PA, right, and AP. So I'm learning how to put stuff together to tell the story. Now I got to come up with the campaign. I got to come up with the story. I got to find little areas to identify to really accentuate and sell, right? So, and I can't. It's one thing to be a leader. You have to show people that you can do it too. And so, again, I lean back to that Jesus moment, right? Because if he willing to sacrifice himself to do it, then you should be willing to sacrifice yourself into it, right? So, my team knows that, like, there's nothing I wouldn't do or ask them to do that I wouldn't do myself. So they know, picking up the camera, but I do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you need me to, I do that too. Chew, you need me to do a VO track? I do that. Whatever you need, I'll do it. So when you see me in the trenches, it's more endearing for you to join in with me, right? And so my team at this point, I've built a rapport, and I've heard this from my leaders and bosses there that, like, you have changed the culture here, right? You've changed, your leadership style has changed the culture for people to buy in, right? There's more involvement. My folks are ready to run through the wall, you know what I mean? And so at this point, now I've learned how to market better, right? I've learned how to talk to 5 voices. I represent, marketing the Knicks and the Rangers and the Islanders and the Devils and the Buffalo Sabres. And these are 5 different audiences that I got to talk to at once.
Yeah.
So I had to, there's a very nuanced way to be creative in a box. Like, how do you go be expansive and do that with limited things, right? So that's why I've really learned how to be a master at it. And it's shown when my industry, we were nominated for 13 Emmys. Like this, the network was nominated for like 32 or 52 nominations, the network, right? But that's live sports, so they might have 32. Me, myself, was responsible for 14 of those, right?
Yeah.
And so the things I touched, 14 of those got nominated. And these are nationally other people looking at us, right? So in one category, this is humble brag, right? This is when I know God is like, because there was times where I'll be riding a train and I wasn't even sure I had imposter syndrome. Not even sure if I'm supposed to be here. If this is really what, did I take advantage of a loophole?
Yeah.
Is this for me?
I get that.
I'm there. I'm not sure. And then I remember I read the Bible every day on the train when I go up. And one day, reading if the birds of the air worry not where their next meal come from, then why? And He love you more. Why too should you be worried? Right?
Yeah, that's good, bro.
So I'm like, well, why am I worried, bro? I'm over here trying to figure out how to talk the language like these folks. I'm not marketing. I was a creative visionary, but not a marketing guy.
Yeah.
So I'm learning how to talk to this, and I'm not being received in that capacity.
Yeah.
And now I move with confidence.
Yeah.
Even if I don't know it, He wouldn't put me nowhere I ain't supposed to. The weapon's going to form, but they damn sure ain't going to prosper.
Yeah.
So I know I'm in a space where, and these Emmys validated that.
Yeah.
They validated because y'all didn't say it. It was my peers that said that.
Yeah.
And in one category or in 2 categories, we had 2 out of the 3. So it's only 3 nominations, and I got 2 in them 3 categories 2 times. So that let me know in my lane, I'm dominating it.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to do the way that God has designed me to do it for now.
Yeah.
Until He ready for me to say, yo, you inspired them. You did what you did. Because everywhere we go, you talk about Jesus, bro. So they know you toting Jesus everywhere you go. When I'm ready for you to go to the next spot and you learned everything you learned here, you a sponge, you absorb everything, you're going to take it to the next spot. You're going to leave this place better than when you left it and when you came in. And this next spot, they're going to want you because they see what you did these last spots, bro.
Yo, I think one of the things I love about you, Kyle, is how you authentically get to be yourself and be a believer, dog. Mm-hmm. And you'll talk about your valleys and you'll talk about your wins, right? And I think that's dope. But I think also, too, is your motivation from your intimacy with God that creates a level, your work ethic, right? Can you talk about how God, from your relationship with God, how your work ethic has really been what it is?
Yeah, yo, it's funny. I was on the phone on the way here, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to my other friend who deals with that same type of deal in the line of work. And so I was saying that, like, no matter if what I do or what people do is validated, or people even recognize that I'm doing it, God is watching, right? Yeah. So I work in a manner in which God is watching. And whether or not y'all give me the results from what I'm doing here, He will reward me for the diligence in which I'm sowing these seeds.
Yeah.
So it's like, whether or not it's raining, it's cool. It's not raining here, but the seeds are planted. Yeah. And in this season, it might not be in this spot that I fully shine the way I'm supposed to. But, in the next space, this work ethic ain't changing.
Yeah. Right?
My character and my morals aren't changing.
Ain't changing.
So the work might be more, my responsibility might be more, and I expect that, right? Yeah. Because the more much is given, much is expected. So I expect to be given more, but to be responsible. God knew I wasn't supposed to be rich a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because I was not mature enough. And he like, bro, you
said, you ain't get this bag.
Look at he got 2 Costco carts. Look at this boy cat.
He out here with Costco wilding.
You know what I mean?
Costco card on spinners.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But now the humbling is also a part of this, right? Yeah. Where, that balance of not too high, not too low, so that you can, be appreciative of every space that you get in. Yeah. Like if you dominate every spot, you be LeBron too early, bro. You end up Lenny Cook. You not LeBron.
Lenny Cook.
You know what I mean? If you LeBron too early, you know what I mean?
Like, too early.
But that's really the thing too, is like, just recognizing I'm still a work in progress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as long as I'm willing to be flexible and moldable and, just wherever, things can change tomorrow, bro. God can take away my sight, but He's not gonna take that confidence still there, right? Like I might not be able to see the set, right? How that my job has changed forever. My hands might not work. I can't edit no more, sure, but that don't take away the passion and creativity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And wherever there is next, that's what He got for me. You know what I mean.
Well, listen, do me a favor. Look into camera 3. You know, your camera.
Yes, sir.
And give somebody, if somebody was sitting there like you watching, give them some advice and some encouragement for them to be to get the W.
So what I would say is for you at home, wherever you are in life, and you are trying to figure out what exactly God has placed in your heart to do for people or even for yourself, I want you to know that whatever vision He has given you, sometimes sharing that vision is also as detrimental as keeping it in. And, something, and I got my own isms, so, forgive me for speaking them sometimes, but the seeds are important, right? And the mustard seed is very important because it grows, right? It's a small seed, but it grows. But sometimes the seed of doubt can also be really important in the wrong way. And when you give that vision that God hasn't given to everybody, and you let them know what you have for intentions for yourself, sometimes we can be discouraged easily because there is an ability to not be matched in that vision, and people don't see what you see, but God gave it to you, right? So if Noah had that vision, but they was laughing at Noah, they didn't get it, right? You have that vision, God gave it to you. Work on that, water that, right? But water it in the right way. Recognize who are the right people around you that speak that, right? Sometimes you might give them a crumb, just a little bit, just enough to recognize what you want to have, but you don't give it all to them because you want to see how they water it, right? And just know that, anything that God has given you is for a reason. So be bold in it, be strong, be confident. And, we can all fall back in this process, but, don't lose faith, stay strong, and just know that, you can be here too, in this same seat, giving your testimony, your story for somebody else who is just on their couch or watching and are not as sure as to what the next steps are. You got this. It's gonna be fine. Trust God.
Yeah. Folks, as I've said in many other transitions, this is Hidden Gems. Like, I want you guys to hear these stories that are personal to me and the relationships that I've built, because I believe they're all treasures, right? I think as you hear in Kyle's story, just this favor of God happening where you're at these mountain peak moments, but then there's some valleys where, life hits, and he commits to being effective in that season. Our man became a whole painter, and then God just created space for him, right? Just favor, right? But then in that, though, the Lord using his wife as an anchor and reminding him of the intimacy and the commitment that God wants from you, right? And giving you responsibility. And so owning his leadership. And again, I'm sharing this with you guys because I think it's very, very important that you find people who are like you, who are trying to figure it out. And sometimes Sunday morning doesn't give you all that you need to figure out I call my content Life After Sunday.
I like that.
And it's from the music to the creative stuff that we do. Like there's a way that we have to live Sunday afternoon till Saturday night that impacts our growth as believers, impacts our growth as creatives. And you need to hear stories that are similar to that, right? So thank you for tuning in to Hidden Gems today. I'm so glad you joined us. Please hop in the comments. Would love to get your feedback, like I say any other time. Any other suggestions, any questions, Kyle's Instagram is going to pop up. I want to make sure that y'all follow him and stay connected with his stuff. Kyle, thank you for being here, bro.
You already know.
Yo, you my guy, dog. I really, really appreciate it, bro.
Love you, man. I appreciate you, dog.
Yeah, man. And guys, enjoy more episodes of Hidden Gems. And share this with a friend. All right? Peace.